Hey, it's Tim, Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, joined by Barry with CTech Review. We are talking RHO, and well, you know these live streams go, whatever hell else comes up in the conversation. So I met Barry through the RAM-RHO forum. I've committed this year to be more active in forums for better or worse. And so I was over there and ran into Barry, who also bought an RHO about the same time I bought it from the same dealership, Mark Dodge, not the plug, not getting paid, but hey, markdodge.net. And he drove back to Michigan, I drove back to Western Nebraska. And so we just thought we'd talk about the RHO and talk about his experience. What I like about Barry is that he's had other sports trucks, and he has a unique angle in the industry a little bit, where he's got more experience than the average bear when it comes to trucks and things. So welcome, Barry.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Tim. Thanks for inviting me. And this is it is fun. It's kind of neat, getting this truck coming from the side of F-150 Raptor ownership, and we've got a Bronco Raptor now. I've always been a huge Jeep fan, Power Wagon, so it's fun to see having a Ram off-road truck. I got really close to getting a TRX a few years ago. Just kind of didn't work out at the time. I got an opportunity at the Raptor R. And so now it's fun kind of going down this Raptor R or the Ram RHO path.
So let's talk for a minute. You had Raptor R and then the RHO. Now people are going to be like, oh man,
right.
You lost the exhaust note, you lost the horsepower, but you saved what, $30,000, but still no, the exhaust note, man, you lost that. I mean, how do you feel about those comments?
So, there's a lot of truth in it. I mean, I still look to this day, and I think when I think of like off-road trucks, for a high-speed off-road truck, I put the Raptor R. It's kind of like the king. TRX is awesome too, but when you look at that like pinnacle off-road suspension, everything, and on top of that, you've probably driven them yourself. The 5.2 Predator Carnivore motor is like no V8 I've ever driven. That thing is just an animal. It's how would I explain this? Hellcat, which is in a TRX or 6.2, and the 5.2, which is in a Raptor R. These motors couldn't be more opposite of each other. Even though they're supercharged V8s, they are completely different power. Whereas like that TRX 6.2 Hellcat is that big hit and then kind of signs off more at the top. Whereas the Raptor R is kind of like a little softer in the bottom and just screams to redline. But going from Raptor R to RHO for me was more along practicality of the truck. I loved my Raptor R, but I use my truck as a truck. We tow a lot. We go off-roading. We're covering a big mileage. Like we just did 1,000 miles last week towing a trailer to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. And the Raptor R is great, but some of the things we all love about the Raptor R, that awesome loud V8, awesome exhaust, it sounds great, like going 15 miles, 30 miles, maybe even a 100-mile road trip. But imagine an 8,000-pound trailer behind it, hearing a V8 supercharged, screaming for like 6 hours straight. It sounds awesome. I love it. But about 30 minutes in, you're like, all right, why is this quiet button on the steering wheel not working? And I found out that on the Raptor R, even though it's got the exhaust modes like the standard Raptor, you can't make that. It won't let the muffler like get quiet. So that was one thing. Plus, in full fairness, man, that Raptor R is like a Ferrari. You feel bad using that truck as a truck. Whereas when I get in the RHO, I'm like, throw crap in the back. I don't feel bad like using this thing. And it's still, and arguably, the RHO is so much more, in my opinion, more premium interior, fit and finish. This thing is just bougie as all get out.
That's a really interesting perspective. I remember years ago, I was driving a Tundra TRD Pro across the country towing a truck. And I said in my article that I wrote it for Motor Trend at the time that, at 8 o'clock at night, it's cool. At 4:30 in the morning, leaving a rest stop out of Iowa, it's not so great because
it'll wear you out
here. Yeah. And so I missed the rumble under my seat, which is the TRX had that rumble.
Yep.
And yeah, when you start to truck up, it doesn't sound awesome. But I said in the Facebook group earlier today, I said, it's hard to hear the exhaust when you're hauling ass.
Yeah. and what's
really
cool what's cool about the RHO is like having the Gen 3 Raptor with that. I think Ford did a great job on the Gen 3 Raptor exhaust, making it sound like a really good sounding V6. Ram took a little different approach, but for my specific needs, I actually like the RHO exhaust going down the highway better because like you said, it's so quiet. It's so smooth.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group that I'm involved in because I glutton for punishment for more comments. And the guy, unpopular opinion, he goes, "I love the RHO sound because I don't want the big exhaust note all the time. I'm on Bluetooth making phone calls. I'm
Yep.
doing this, doing that, and I think it's a really interesting flip in the mindset. Like because if you look at the numbers, and I want to say something real fast. Jim Emmerich's got a really interesting comment. I want to get to that in minutes. Hang on, Jim. If you look at the numbers, the RHO versus the TRX, I mean, the 0 to 60 time is damn near the same. One guy pointed out, he goes, 720 is just a cool number. That's really, it's a cool number. The exhaust sounds great, but besides that, I mean, I think it's overall a more well-balanced truck. I noticed that in the corners, especially off-roading, I always felt like the TRX and the Raptor a little bit, to this Raptor RX especially, just gets bogged down a little bit. It's too much horsepower for this weight of the truck or something. It just always felt like a little laggy. But it's again, the inline six, to me, I love inline six motors. I've had two of these now. They're just so well balanced, and I can't describe it, and I don't know how to describe it in words. Until you drive it, you don't get the feel of the inline six, how well it feels. And I just felt like it's just a rocket ship too. I mean, and I don't really care about 0 to 60 times because I got crap in the back of my truck, and where's it going? 0 to 60? It's smashed your tailgate.
You're strapping down,
and you hear all the scrap, right? But I the 60 to 70 passing, or the 70 to let's say 90. I never do that.
Kilometers.
Yeah, kilometers. It's pretty quick. Like I get around out here in Nebraska. I get around combines pretty damn quick, and beat trucks and semis and things. I mean, so I've always been a bigger fan of passing speed than I have been offline speed. Now it doesn't hurt the RHO has got a launch button, which I have a spot. My plan is to have my wife do it because I've already done it. Yeah, and launch it.
Well, it's funny you say that. I've mentioned that, like, it's hard to explain how smooth this is. You hear people talk about it. You just have to experience it for yourself. This Hurricane, from a domestic standpoint, powertrains I've been in, I've never felt any domestic motor this smooth. When it starts up, if you didn't know, you can't even feel the vehicle, like any vibration in the truck. You probably noticed it. Mm-hmm. When the start-stop comes on and off. And I remember my brother as a kid, he's a little older than me. He used to drag race. And back in the day when they drag race, they'd spend extra money getting motors blueprinted and the engines balanced. And the whole idea of balancing is these motors, they're less vibration and make more power, they're more reliable. And all my mind goes to is, if that design is built into this Hurricane motor, this thing's got to be a phenomenal engine because it's that smooth.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Let's keep talking about engines because Jim brings a really good point. So Jim Emmerich says, "Give me some good news, guys. I'm working at the Dundee engine plant," which you are a little smirking because you know this news, and I've seen this news as well. 5.7 liter Hemi rumors going wild here. So there is, and there's no doubt there has been some news coverage. I have not published a video or article about it because at this point it's all speculation. I haven't seen anything that's been concrete. I'm sure people have their sources, and fine. But I haven't. But I'm a journalist to a J, right? So I can't report on speculation. I got to wait till I get some confirmed news or somebody says something because I just can't dive into rumors all the time. Because frankly, if you started diving into rumors, you'd have channels with thousands of videos because there's rumors all the time. What I have said and what I continue to say is, I don't think that the Ram 1500 sales are that bad. I think this next quarter you'll see sales are going up. So I think the question is going to be more of what's the business case for bringing the 5.7 liter back. Toyota has had lost the 5.7 in 2022, and in 2024 their sales are basically the best they've ever been. So I don't know that I put much stock in this, but I want to go through this to Barry because Barry was at the dealer this weekend. But a very interesting term for people that want this 5.7 back. Yeah,
that's funny you mentioned that. So actually, since you and I talked earlier today, Tim, some news kind of come to me a little bit about this whole Hemi topic. So the topic this weekend or last week that came to me was a family friend of ours. He's in the industry working, managing some dealerships, and he calls it the pissed off Hemi owner. And it's the guy that has the Hemi. He loves his truck. He's up for maybe lease or wants to upgrade. He doesn't have that option now. and these guys are not happy. I get it. I've had Hemis. I totally understand. With that being said, like Tim, you were just saying, speculation, we hate to go down that rabbit hole because we could just make a bunch of accusations of unsubstantiated things. What I think logically, just being in the automotive industry for the years I've been, like you have, is it takes time to turn on these supply chains and getting things ramped up. And I think 5.7, I could see it coming back, but I could see it a few years from now potentially. And if you think about it, this is how I keep thinking about it. If I'm Tim Konekis, I would tell people what they want to hear right now. Hey, we're bringing Hemi back. We're thinking about it. And in the meantime, you spend your money marketing and rolling out this Hurricane and showing people this is actually a really awesome powertrain. And in a few years from now, people might be like, man, I don't know. I used to want a 5.7, but I actually appreciate 150 pound-feet of torque more for towing, better fuel economy, smoother. You want to put a tune on one? It's hard to put a tune on a 5.7 Hemi and make 700 horsepower. You can do that with a Hurricane. So what I could logically see, it'd be really easy if you think about it. They're already doing this last call Durango. It seems like it'd be pretty easy to just extend production on the Hellcat, maybe throw something like that back and make some final version or final last call kind of TRX, the second final last call.
I think it's actually third or whatever.
Yeah, third or fourth. And I could also see, if you think about it, from the baseline of 392 and 6.4. 6.4 is still here today. That's in the Ram 2500. That didn't go anywhere. So if you think about the crank in that, you think about the cylinders, the piston, the heads, it seems like it'd be really easy to throw 392 6.4 into some special variant much quicker. Whereas 5.7, that supply chain's been turned off. Like, I think that if I think about it in a traditional terms of the automotive industry supply chain, it would make it seem like it'd be a few years out. And are you going to refresh it? Are you going to modernize that powertrain, make it meet better emissions? I don't know. Maybe emissions won't be an issue in a few years, but you and I've talked about this. After owning a Hurricane, I've owned multiple 5.7 Hemis. Man, I'd have a real hard time going back to a 5.7 Hemi now. I really do. I miss that. I miss the V8 sound for sure. How do you not? We're all accustomed to that. But man, everything else about this Hurricane, I freaking love this thing.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. And I think the other thing that people don't know about the Hemi is that it's e-torque. The last couple of years of 1500, there was no straight natural aspirated Hemi. It was an e-torque system. They were doing cylinder deactivation. They were doing everything they possibly could do to get that engine to a place in a global marketplace.
Yep.
That's the key word that I always come back to that I don't think people really understand, is that the United States is the second largest market in the world. China's number one, and arguably Europe is even more important than the United States, especially because the Ram 1500 is only sold in the United States. So you have one little product that's going to put this engine in. When you're a company like Stellantis looking at what they got, 500 brands, or no, whatever. I'm just being sarcastic. But they got so many different brands in a global marketplace. I just think it's business. I don't think there's anything, and I get it, right? I mean, this is so funny because it's deja vu to me. When I reported on news of the Tundra V8 going away, it was the same news. It was the same deja vu. It was oh my God, it won't sell. Oh my God, they're going to destroy it. Now I still don't agree with the reasoning that Toyota used. So I think that the biggest question is, let's understand with this Hemi why it went away. So why did it go away? We have global problems, selling it in global markets. We have doing everything we can with e-torque and things to get that to the better emissions. Stellantis, or AKK Chrysler for years, has been paying fines for decades on their emissions. I don't care what president you want to get included in these fines. They've paid them to Trump. They've paid fines to Trump. They've paid fines to Biden. They've paid fines to Obama. They paid fines to Bush. They've always paid fines. And so imagine selling a vehicle or product as a company. Every time you sell it, you pay a fine. Well, that's not good business, right? That doesn't make sense. And then you look at the things of they had a great run. I actually was doing stories about 4 or 5 years ago. People were asking me, why isn't Hemi dead by now? Because it's like all engines at some point, they die. I mean, at some point, technology improves or things change or customer demand changes. I can't tell you how many customers I talk to that tell me they want 3 things from a truck: smooth, quiet, powerful. And the average
reliable.
buyer is 45, 65 years old. That's what they want anymore.
Yep.
So I think it's really an interesting point of understanding why it changed and what happened. And I always throw back the thing. Tim Kuniskis bought an RHO. If he didn't like the Hurricane, he's probably going to buy the TRX, because that guy, I like Tim Kuniskis. He is a sport truck dude. That dude wants to rip. That's all he wants to do. And so I can't imagine he's going, yeah, I'm going to go buy a Hemi because I like the V8 sound. No, he doesn't want to hear the exhaust. He wants to be driving so fast you can't hear it. So it makes me wonder that stuff as far as when you think about the bigger picture. It doesn't make sense to me. But,
and what's funny, Tim, is if you think about like flagship Halo vehicles, I look at the Ford GT. This vehicle is on its third generation starting in 2017. What motor did they put in that? The 3.5 twin turbo 6-cylinder.
Yeah.
They didn't put a Godzilla. They didn't put a Coyote in it. Both great engines. They pushed that thing 700 horsepower with a 6-cylinder. So I think what I would have loved to have seen is Ram Stellantis roll out a little longer time frame to like get people on board with the Hurricane. Because I think if they would have like maybe had like a year of overlap with Hemi and Hurricane to like show people, give them the option. Why not? And then like show people. Ford did that in 2011 when the EcoBoost came out. Yep. Ford said, all right, you guys, we're going to do something no one's done. We're going to make a performance V6 to replace the V8. And everyone, that was a big deal back then. If you think about it, that was 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So what did Ford do? They did a great job on this. They went and took a motor and put it on a 1.5 lifetime engine dyno test, which simulated 150,000 miles. It beat the crap out of this engine, took that engine out of the dyno cell, put it in a truck, and then sent it across the country, across construction sites, agriculture, logging companies. They put it on a NASCAR ring for, what was it, like 4,000 miles straight, towing like 15,000 pounds, beat the crap out of this thing for 200,000 miles, pulled the engine out of the truck, did a full spec on every single component of that engine, and then showed it at an auto show. Here's the components that came out of this engine. And it proved to people, all right, it's a 6-cylinder, but it looks like Ford did their homework. I think they did a good job getting consumer confidence. And now if you look at 2024, if you look at the sales numbers, I think 75% of the F-150 sales were EcoBoost. Only 25% of the customers were ordering a V8. The rest of them were 2.7, 3.5, and Power Boost. So Ford's given the option, and the customer still wants the boosted 6-cylinder.
And what's interesting is my colleagues and other people have pointed out that, hey, Ford still offers the V8. Why can't other brands offer the V8? If you go to Ford.com and actually build and price these vehicles, you'll learn quickly that the V8 isn't an option on all the trim levels.
Yep, like Platinum, I think.
Yeah, well, actually below that, I think it's Laramie now, as they do put down there. So it's like, you're not Laramie, that's a Ram thing. Lariat.
Lariat, yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute here. So how much have I had to drink tonight? I haven't had that much. So I think if you go down to that, I mean, so it's not like it's they offer it, yes, but not in everything. And when Ram rolled out the Hurricane high output, they called that a high performance engine, a top tier engine. Well, that to me means that the Tungsten and the RHO and the Laramie Longhorn will always have that as the engine, because that's the verbiage they put out. And again, automakers don't make quick changes. They think in terms of 4, 8, 12 years, because the supply chain takes so long, and suppliers. And, it's not like you just call up, hey, Joe Bob supplier, because there's tier 1, 2s, and 3s. And you got to get the tier 3 to work with tier 2 and tier 1 to get on board. And they got to all produce parts to go back. And even Tim Kuniskis said this, which kills me, because you go on YouTube and you see videos, it's going back, next week or whatever. And Tim Kuniskis said, we can bring it back, but it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
Because we have to do tuning on it. We have to make it, put in the truck and reset the truck up for it. We have to know how to build it. We have to get the supplier on board. I mean, this is a big time period. And so I don't know. I find that conversation to be a little bit like, okay, well, to me, it's like the TRX conversation, right? So we both had this in the comments. Should have bought a TRX. Should have bought TRX. And I get that. For me, it wasn't a choice, because the TRX, from my business standpoint, has been covered to death. I think Street Speed 717 destroyed it, right? When he lit it on fire. Yeah. What else do you do besides lighting a truck on fire? Like that, I mean,
Right.
he jumped a creek, which was a dumb thing to do, and he got fined for it, which I thought was actually a good thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like after that point, like, do you guys really want to watch another TRX video? Like,
Right.
I don't. Like, just nothing else to that. But
And,
you know, with the RHO with level 2 kind of hands-free driving, and I don't know about you, massaging seats. I'm kind of a big fan of level 1.
man, it's amazing. And it is kind of fun to like. I am kind of like, I love my V8, and I wouldn't be against, and I hope Ram gives the customer the option. Hey, you want a V8 and 1500? I got no problem with that. That's cool, man. I mean, want a 5.7 6.4? Why not? But there is something really neat about forced induction. I've been spoiled by it. I like the chill nature of it. We were talking earlier, Tim, about the experience of towing. You're hearing that V8 and it's just rumbling forever. I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine in 2011, we're going to do a snowmobile trip, and we're pulling an enclosed trailer from Michigan to Wyoming. This is like a 30-hour trip. Okay. This is before any of us had kids, before any of us, you know, we're going to go out and have fun.
Yeah. You're going right over there.
Yeah. Right over there. Right in your backyard.
Yeah, that's basically, I can see Wyoming from my house.
So my buddy's bragging to me. He goes, man, I got this new F-150 with the 5.0. I'm like, well, I got a 1-year-old F-150 with the 5.4. I'm like, you want to take my truck or yours? He goes, oh, let's take the new one. And I'm like, all right, cool. This new 5.0 is supposed to be great. By the time I got to, I don't know if it's North or South Dakota, hearing that engine holding 4,500 RPMs for about 3 hours straight, dude, I needed to medicate myself. I was about to lose my mind just hearing that thing ripping. By the time we got to Wyoming, our buddy picked us up in a new Power Stroke diesel, and we hooked the trailer up to this, and all of a sudden it was peaceful and quiet. And that was the moment where I'm like, man, these boosted engines, diesels, boosted 6 cylinders, I would prefer this for my needs in towing. These things are awesome. They're just so chill and peaceful.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that people don't always hear the other side of that, right? And yeah, when I was hauling butt in the TRX and jumping it and stuff like that, it was fun. The RHO jumps just as well. Somebody said they haven't seen any cool videos from us. I'm like, have you not seen my jumping video? Like in Holly Oaks, like I didn't stop smiling the whole damn time. Like I was giving the Brant, the brand manager for Ram National, I was giving lots of crap about where my damn truck was. I wanted to drive it home from that event, and they said no, and I was going to steal the keys anyways. But it would be fine. Yeah. So you know, it's so much a fun experience. So I bought my wife a Ranger because timing with the Ram wasn't great, and I really wanted to expand our, let me go air quotes, our fleet, our 2 vehicles, and I really wanted her to mid-size truck because I want to do the mid-size, full-size comparisons, and I want to do more mid-size truck. There's a good segment for that. But it's funny because my wife and kids, like, they get in the RHO, and it's a whole different experience. They're like, man, I got tons of room. My wife's like, man, I feel like I'm like king of the road, you know, because you sit up so much higher, and the driving position. But I was driving by, and when I was coming home, I remember driving by a 3/4 ton towing something, and like I'm looking eyeballs to eyeballs this guy because it's a tall truck. Thankfully I got running boards. Mopar sponsors me some running boards. Video coming soon, because I'm 5'7", maybe 8 with boots on, and I was getting tired of climbing that truck. It's so tall, but it's probably the coolest truck I've ever owned.
Yeah, for sure.
I pass everything except for the gas station. Yeah. I took a picture. I was going to post on Instagram. I had a $100 fill up today, and I'm like, yep. It was on E. You know, it was fuel was low. Icon popped up and it was beeping at me. It actually turned off remote start because the fuel was too low, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I'm kind of guessing I did, but yeah. And I was like, well, it's not a cheap truck to buy. It's not a cheap truck to drive. It's not a truck I would tell people to go get because it's a toy. Right.
Yep. I mean, TRX, Raptor R, RHO, they're just toys really at the end of the day. But the cool thing is it's a toy that can still do work stuff. Yeah. I mean, you see what I've already towed with mine, a few thousand miles. And this summer we'll be towing 8,500 pound travel trailers all across the state of Michigan and the Midwest. And I expect it to work awesome because my Raptor's towed great. But there's something neat about towing something heavy to, like, say we'll tow our travel trailer to Silver Lake Sand Dunes. Mm-hmm. We'll drop the trailer and we'll go take the truck in the dunes and jump it and beat on it, connect the trailer and head home.
Yeah. No, I mean that's exactly what that's for, and I think it's a lot of fun.
Yep.
It's so much fun to do that. And I have thoughts. I mean, I've actually just got an invite to do a RAM event in Vegas, and I actually was looking at the map, thinking, man, I'll just damn drive. And then they offered me plane tickets and things, and I was like, well, it actually is like the same timing for me to drive to the airport, fly out to get there, than it is to drive my whole way. So to be determined what I do with that, because I can't keep. I can't stop driving it. So I had because it's so comfortable, right? The seats are comfortable, the massaging seats work great, and I don't know about you, but that heated seat, it could almost fry my butt. Like I've never experienced heated seat, and it's 3 levels, and it's got 3 levels in the steering wheel, and it's hot for me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because everybody's got a different perspective of how they enjoy heated seats. I'm the type of person, I'm super cold. I want to get in. I want to warm up quick. But as soon as I'm warm, turn it all off. I don't want the heated seat on. I don't want the heated steering wheel. Get it off. And this thing, man, it is a ripper. It's so freaking hot. I'm like trying to figure out how to turn it down. And then the thing is, okay, so I got a video coming on this. This is one of the things that I wish Ram would do an over-the-air update of, just a kill switch where you could kill all heated seat and heated steering wheel with like a Siri sound or a one button. Because to turn off the heated steering wheel, you now need 3 clicks, not one. You need 3 clicks for the heated seat, and you need 1 click to get in the menu. So you got to hit 7 clicks on a touch capacitive screen. And I think that's kind of silly. I wish there was just one button that you could just turn it all off. But I like the fact that Ram offers a heated steering wheel with 3 different settings, because some people just like it to be on the whole time. And now Ram has given you the option of you can have that thing ripping hot or just sort of lukewarm.
Yeah. Have you tried the voice commands?
No.
I wonder if there's yeah. So I am 6 emails and 2 phone calls in on a story about how the auto temperature setting actually works. Because what RAM engineering is telling me is different from what the owner's manual says. So I got a video on it, because it's kind of confusing. But he said one of the ideas you could do is you could do voice commands. So I wonder if it's a voice command to turn off the heated seats and heated steering wheel.
Man, that would be awesome.
I haven't tried it. Yeah. I haven't, but those are things that, like, I get a 7-day press loan. Maybe it's snowing every day. Maybe it's 70 degrees. You never know, right? But if I got when you buy a truck, you get for me, I get 4 seasons, because maybe a longer sometimes, spring, summer, winter, fall, or fall, winter, and you get to experience things different in windy conditions and rainy and snow and things. And there's always new ideas forming in my mind about things that you think about, especially like, for example, you get in these trucks in the cold in the winter, and how fast to heat up, how fast do you have trouble starting it, and how do you turn off heated steering wheel, heated seats, and those are key things.
I agree. Well, it's funny you talk about things. I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy with these vehicles, but this Ram, man, you could spend a week in this thing just playing with mint. It's so over the top, which is cool. I like that it gives people so much functionality of like customization. But then there's things like that I think don't make sense to me. The RAM key, that makes no sense to me at all. You got this little credit card. If you could keep the credit card in your wallet and you could just enter in the vehicle with the RAM key, and you could start the vehicle by having that RAM key in your wallet, that'd be pretty slick. But you can't. You actually got to take this little card out, place it on the door, then take it out, and then put it in that, and then take it and put it in the wireless charging area. I don't think that technology makes it any easier. You know what I mean? I don't see the value in it. What I do think would be cool is I feel like now I can hide that somewhere in the vehicle outside. And if I ever lost my key to the car, I've got a hidden RAM key somewhere,
So full disclosure, I haven't got mine out of the package. I didn't even, I just, because they gave me 2 keys. I put one in my office and put one, I carry one. I don't even deal with it.
I've used it just to see how it works. I'm struggling. That and the camera or the passenger display, I haven't found the value in that quite yet. But
yeah, I think the passenger display really comes down to long road trips and a passenger, right? Yep. So I mean, I think that could make some sense. My wife and I have always argued about navigation as far as how to get to program stuff. But now we use Waze, and so it's like I've just she just grabs my phone and does it. So I don't think that the passenger screen really does anything. I don't really care. And it's funny because it's part of the level 1 group, but I feel like the level 1 group is the massaging seats and the other items, not so much the passenger screen.
Right.
Let's talk about headlights, because this is interesting. Dave in Canada, who's always a very happy, lucky going guy, loves everything. That's sarcasm again. He wants to talk about the LED headlights. This is a top conversation in automotive groups I'm parts of. People love to hate LED headlights because they're bright and they blind people. And if you use halogens like the old school, you're seen to be kinder to your drivers around you. I got to tell you, I really like LED lights. Like, I think they're really great. And I know it's a me versus them argument. It's kind of a selfish thing. Whereas if I'm driving my truck, I want to see. I don't really give a crap about somebody else around me. Like, I want to be able to see where I'm going. And I think the auto headlights, like I use auto headlights a lot, and auto high beams, because I'm always have those on, because I have stretches of wide open nothing. It's nice to have those on.
Sure. What's interesting is, like, I love LED headlights, and I can't imagine going back to halogen. I mean, we have that in our Gen 1 Raptor, and I'm like, dude, I feel like I'm lighting up the road with 2 candles. Yeah. It feels so dim. But I also see the oncoming traffic standpoint. There's some logic of that. What I don't understand, so Ford in the Raptor from 2021 to 2023 had what was called dynamic bending headlights. Really cool technology. And the headlights, with the load in the truck, the headlights would go up and down, very much like European cars. A lot of the BMWs, Audis, no big deal. But when you're going around the road, they'd also turn a little bit, which was cool. They got rid of that in 2024. Shocker, cost cutting, right? But what I don't understand is, if you've got the capability of dynamic bending, why couldn't they implement in with the auto high beam that what Audi is doing, where, if you've seen the Audi headlights where the headlights cut off in the road with oncoming traffic.
Oh yeah, I have seen that.
So you've got oncoming traffic coming at you. The headlights don't blind that car. And then as soon as the car goes past, they sweep back open. It seems like that wouldn't be that hard to add, but I don't know.
European headlights are a lot different than US headlights, and there's a lot of different rules. It sounds like, though, you have some explaining to do. Maybe this was recorded during the holidays, says Governor 93. I'm playing live now. Explains a Christmas tree off of your shoulder there, sir, because I see a Christmas tree.
I knew someone was going to say something. So I was just waiting for it, and I purposely placed the camera there to see how long this would last. So
at 32 minutes and 40 seconds, we have our first comment.
So my kids, Christmas, they like the holidays and whatnot. We're just like, man, this is so much work putting up Christmas. The Christmas tree. So we kept it up for a while. This is the basement one. We got rid of the main stair, but it is kind of funny. We do have that up still. It's not a real Christmas tree, so it won't catch on fire.
Right. Actually, a side note, I get called out for rambling on side notes and stuff, but we actually put the LED strip lights around our house.
That's cool.
Found them on Amazon for like $150 for 50.
Did you put them on the gutters?
Yeah, no, not the gutters, but the little piece of plastic between the trim piece between the fascia and the gutter. There's a little piece right there,
like a J channel.
Yeah, the J channel. We put it on there, and then we had some for the eaves. We had some screw-on plastic that would covers go on top. That way, it'd hold it in, and plastic clips. And the rest of the time, we just use tape. And so we have our lights still on. They're red for Valentine's Day.
That's cool. That's awesome. Yeah.
Well, and plus outside lighting and security reasons and things. I mean, it's nice. I have an issue where a lot of people in town know what I do now. And so I've had people stop by the house, knock on the door, and want to just talk about things for a while.
Oh my gosh.
And when I'm out of town, it's a little bit of an issue. So yeah, we like the lights.
You're kind of a big deal. People know you.
I know. I tell people all the time that I'm the most famous person in Gary, Nebraska you'd never heard of.
That's funny.
Because I live in a small town. People don't know this stuff. But yeah, so anyways, cool. We had lights too. But I really like I need to do a nighttime. I used to do a nighttime video. I haven't done it yet in RHO. But I like the the lighting signature on the rear taillights when you hit the lock button. They
Yeah.
do a little dance looking thing. Yeah, it's
Cool.
like and it's stupid. And again, it's dumb. It's no truck needs this, and I get it and I understand it. But when you own something like this, it just makes me excited about driving it. So
Yeah.
I had a Frontier this last week as a press loan. I drove it to Denver, drove it back. I had a failed flight kind of deal, and spent 6 hours in it. I couldn't wait to home to get my RHO. And they just dropped off a 25 GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X AEV edition with an awesome 3-liter Duramax diesel. But they put rock rails in the damn thing. And it was snowing this morning and icy and slippery as shit. So I took the kids in RHO because I have the flat Mopar running boards on it and it's easy to use. And I got into GMC today and I drove it around the block a little bit because I needed to move snow and whatever. And it's incredible how much more comfortable I am in the Ram. And I owned a Chevrolet Silverado, and it's funny because I looked at the dash, and the dash on the Duramax said like 22 miles per gallon, and I was like, oh man, I miss those days.
Yeah, you're like, I did that going downhill one time, drafting in neutral.
I know. I'm like, because people are asking me, and I don't know if you're getting the same comments. They're like, how's the fuel economy? I'm like, it's miles per mile.
You've seen my video. I mean, man, I did 1,300 miles and never got over 14.
Yeah.
With that being said, I've noticed a breakthrough.
Oh, hey.
And some people were saying use snow mode. I did a video on this comparing snow mode versus auto mode for MPG.
Okay.
Man, it works really, really well in snow mode for killing the performance, but it also makes the truck like a turd. It's got like no power. I only picked up 0.5 mile per gallon. Okay. But the other day I did a 90-mile loop, but it was at like 40 to 60 miles an hour. I looked down and I got 19 miles per gallon for 90 miles. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, what is going on here? It's that slow speeds. I found this thing on the highway, 13, 15 max. And I think in the summer, it'll be a little better because we got winter blend fuel right now.
I noticed the same thing when I was coming up from Dallas to Oklahoma. I got snowed in by this massive storm and it was sucked. But we're doing 30, 45 miles an hour in the interstate and I got like 17 and a half.
It's awesome.
And so, yeah, people keep asking me, I keep telling them what it is, but I keep like you. I want to do more of a summertime, summer fuel, warmer temperatures.
100%.
I wouldn't mind doing there's times I can do I actually want to hypermile this because so in my area, we have a lot of 4-lane roads that I can do actually 55 on, and I can roll up the stop signs and roll through roll the stops. I can do the hypermile stuff. And I'm just curious what the best I could possibly get.
So if you guys watch my channel, you'll realize I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to mile per gallon. I think I've done over 75 videos of mile per gallon loops. It all stems back to my dad way back in the day. He was all about efficiency. His whole thing was like mile per gallon, mile per gallon. So you don't realize you grow up and you're like, oh, I actually care about mile per gallon. So I do a lot of stuff about this. But I went back to some of my footage on my 21 Raptor and 24 and the Bronco Raptor, because everyone keeps saying, oh my gosh, this RHO just gets such worse fuel economy. It doesn't. It's literally within a mile per gallon. And I wasn't even comparing apples to apples because that truck had 30,000 miles on it, broken in, and it was in summer blend fuel. In summertime, this truck had like 1,000 miles on it in the winter, in winter blend fuel. I'm going to do this again, and I bet you it's at less than a mile per gallon difference. And the fact that the truck is running around in all-wheel drive and it's getting that close is pretty impressive. And I'll tell you right now, after having the Raptor, which I love Raptors. I think they're awesome. But here's the caveat that I've now noticed having this RHO. This truck is about 600 pounds heavier when I compared curb weight to the last truck I did the video on, 600 pounds heavier. That 500 to 600 pounds added in with these Bilstein shocks, I swear this truck feels way more planted on the road than any Raptor I've owned. When you hit expansion joints on the road, I've noticed the Raptors kind of get this little scoot in the rear end. Yeah. This RHO, dude, she's planted. And part of me thinks, could it be the all-wheel drive system that's pulling from the front? It's possible. Yeah. Part of me thinks it's the Bilstein shocks. Possible. You know what I think it could be? I think it's this Dana 60 rear axle. That rear axle is a monster. It's super heavy. It's going to put more pressure on the rear wheels, more traction. I don't know. Logically, that makes sense to me. But the handling, I think, is much better than Raptors I've had in the past.
Yeah, I feel like this you could drive around all day, and it doesn't. Yeah, it feels good. And you know, I'm going to leave it to you being the expert on really crappy roads because I know the state you live in and how the expansion stuff works. But you know, out here we have pretty good roads, so I don't really have that same ability to test them to the same level Michigan does because you know the worst roads in the country.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, I feel like road tripping wise, it's a joy to drive. I like driving around town. So let's talk about things that this will be fun for people. Things that are now our favorite things and little favorite things we've come across that we may not have thought before. And I'll give you an example. So I picked my kid up at school. I like one of the benefits working from home and having my business and the things I've built over the years is I can take my kids to school and pick them up from school. And I love that. I get 15 minutes with them in the truck or whatever. I don't have to talk about, we talk about things. We get to know my kids better, and not because they get in the house, they go to the basement, they go to TVs, they go to computers, and they're gone. So I found this camera mode that shows the passenger side of the curb. So I have it saved as a favorite, which is another feature I love because I can save these favorites. And when I pull up to his curb, my son is about 5'0" nothing, right? And so before I had running boards, I would get right to the sidewalk so we could get in easily. Because I was like, man, it makes that. So when I pull to school now, I press that button, and I have to do I have a video I need to put together. Things I actually think I put it in my silly things I liked about the truck. I think I talked about that in that video. Was that little camera? It's so stupid, but they have so many cameras, and it's unreal the views you have in this truck from the screen.
I agree. And you know what's funny? There's a bunch of camera options, but to elaborate on that, I find that the resolution of these cameras are phenomenal.
Oh,
I mean, and if you noticed, I don't know if it's the hertz rate, but the refresh rate, it's so like instantaneous. Like when you're looking at an image in a camera, I think they've been doing this for a while now. I think their cameras, they do a really good job. The only thing that I'm not going to call it a bummer, just kind of getting used to it, is so Ford's display goes sideways, Ram's goes vertically, portrait versus landscape.
Landscape, yeah.
I think the Ford plays better with the surround camera. It fills that whole display. I'd like to see Ram utilize a little bit more of that display, but it's not a big deal. I mean, it's like,
Yeah. So for those that don't know, imagine I have and those in the podcast, I have a pad here. Imagine like the top third of your pad is kind of your cameras. And then the bottom 2/3 is, maybe your CarPlay screen or whatever kind of deal. It's really a split screen. And I have thought about that too. Some brands don't do it really well as far as justice for that stuff. I used to pick on Chevrolet all the time about this because they had the most cameras in the segment, but the screen was 8 inches wide. You couldn't see the damn camera. So I was like, what's the point of having these cameras? You can't see the screen. Like, and finally the engineers were like, yes, we hear you. Yes. We hear you. And I was like, come on, guys. So then redid the script. When they redid the interior of the Silverado and the Sierra, my goodness, huge benefit. But I like that little thing there. I like having the key, and Brant showed me this, is the sales manager guy. Behind the shifter, there's a little indent, and that's where your key goes. So next time you get in, if you haven't figured this out yet, if you hop in your seat, you'll see the shifter right behind it is an indented storage little area, and that actually fits your key fob.
That's cool. I'll have to play with that.
Yeah, because Brant we were talking about Texas, and he was like, I hate driving with stuff in my pockets. I said, I hate that too. I want to, especially road trips, man. I can't stand stuff in my pockets on road trips. Because, I put my everyone in the cabin, and that little spot, I didn't dawn on me until he showed me. He goes, your key fits right in. I'm like, holy, that's great.
What I'm hoping is going to happen soon, supposedly sometime this year, we're going to be able to use our iPhone as a key for these trucks, and then we don't even need the key fob. That's going to be sweet.
So that's a very interesting topic that this is why I love talking to people like you. And I'm not trying to be mean about anything. You're just more techie than I am. My wife's a huge techie kind of person. I used to work at Best Buy and I sold TVs and stuff. And then I got old and I just want Apple. This works. That's what I do. But there's a lot of conversation with the different generations of truck buyers. There are a lot of older truck buyers who are watching this video going, these guys are spending $70,000 on a truck or $80,000. What the hell are they doing? They're stupid, dumb. that cost as much as my first house. Totally fair. Totally get that. And there's next generation going, I don't even want a key. And the other generation is going, I want a real key. And so it's this really interesting place. And I think that's where the truck market is so cool, is that you can have everybody from a old good old boy coverall redneck dude who I love those guys, love hanging out with those guys, having a beer with those guys and whiskey, whatever. And you have the really geeky, nerdy guy who just left Tesla for 15 years, whatever, got out of MIT, and he wants to buy this and have all these new technology. He loves technology. So it's interesting how it all come to things from a different standpoint in life. And I'm more at the age of I just want stuff to work, but I will tell you, as a journalist, I carry my phone all the time. It's my greatest tool. And so if I got in my truck and my phone was a key, I have never really used those features, but I probably would. And because I probably would be like, you know what? I will tell you, there's no greater satisfaction I have than I'm sitting on the can and I can start my truck up because I know I have to leave pretty soon. That's fantastic. I love that.
I'm like, I don't know if you ever heard the term a geriatric millennial. You ever heard this term?
I have not.
Okay. So I'm of this age group where I'm right at the break of, what is it, Gen X and Gen Y, like 1980 timeframe when you're born. And the whole idea of like 1981 is when I'm born.
Yeah, I was 77. So we're slightly, yeah.
Yep. And so the theory is behind it is right at like my age group, they say, is where you can relate to people older than you, but you can also relate to the younger group as far as that. And what I've seen, growing up, I didn't have a cell phone until I was 18. It just wasn't a thing. You didn't do that. Now 12-year-old kids have it. Yeah. But I'm of the belief, if technology makes my life easier and I can trust the reliability, I'll take it. But if the technology doesn't make my life easier and it's not reliable, dude, I don't want it. So like, as an example, we talk about the RAM key. I don't see how that technology makes my life easier. But if I don't have to worry about a key fob failing, the battery failing, because guess what? I just had this happen in our Navigator about 2 weeks ago. This was crazy. We're 4 hours from home. It's cold outside. Go to hit the key fob, can't get in the vehicle. Holy cow, what do? We pull up the app on our phone. Cool, the app works, the Lincoln app. We start the vehicle. The vehicle, we can unlock the vehicle. We can get the kids in the vehicle. I can't drive away because the key fob battery was dead. So I'm like playing around online, trying to figure out like, how do I get this stupid car working? At that point in time, you'd wish you could just put a key in the ignition and be on your way, right? But at the same time, you've got an app on your phone that allowed you to get in the vehicle. I bring this up because I think about the RHO and I think about some of the technology in it. And this is where people would say, dude, do I want a Hurricane with 2 twin turbo, 2 sophisticated engine, or I'll take a trusty 5.7 Hemi that I put a key in the ignition with basic lights and it's a super reliable vehicle. I kind of get that, why people would want that. But at the same time, I think you give it a year or so and some of this technology will be just as reliable and make your life a little easier. You know what I mean? Like This is where, like, another example of technology, I look at Ford when they have this system on the Super Duty and the F-150s where they have a towing camera set up that uses the mirror cameras that looks down the side of the vehicle. I'm backing my trailers into some crazy tight spots every single time I'm using it. We've got a really tight yard and using those cameras down the side of the truck is very helpful. Well, I got very comfortable with using those cameras the last 2-3 years. I get in this RHO, I don't have them. And I'm like, damn, I got to be like a man right now and back this truck up. I'm like, I forgot how to be a man and back this thing up for a second. So that technology kind of spoiled me.
Right.
But you know what I mean? If the technology is not reliable, you don't want it.
Right. Yeah, no, we got some really good comments. Governor 93 says, throw some overalls and MIT geek and see what happens. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, right.
Andrew talks about he's 35 years old, doesn't like technology, doesn't think it's reliable yet. There's always stuff like that. I'm not going to begrudge that. Yep. We have Sarah Skippy Pants says no key fob frees up a pocket for backup ammo. That's a good idea. I like the idea. There's a thing, I don't know if you saw that, and it's, I guess you can steal my story if you want to, but on the Ram RHO forum, there's a top like 7 storage areas, and what would you put in each. So I kind of want to do that as a funny little short or something, because there is storage forever in this thing.
It's
like
unreal.
I made a joke about putting whiskey bottles in the back of the back of the flat loading floor of the bins back there, and I fit 2 bottles. I don't bootlegger's dream, I guess, but it's crazy the storage, and sometimes you don't understand it, like the key fob thing. Until I told you that, you'd be like, "What is this for?" And it's like, "Oh, that's actually what you can use it for." And I feel like sometimes I wish I would go sit with interior designers, and I never get a chance to do this, but I need to start doing this and saying, "Okay, explain to me, what are all these storage bins for? Like, do you have a plan or something?" Like, I know for myself, behind the radio or behind the entertainment screen, whatever, on top of that, there's an indent, and you have a little Ram logo on there. Well, my brother and I use that for binoculars when we're out deer hunting, because in Wyoming, and as you've been out there, and in Nebraska, we hunt 10,000 acres, or massive amounts of property. You don't go climbing a tree in the morning and wait all day, because they're out there in the field, and you got to be able to spot them from the road and kind of see which way they're going, kind of deal. So we often sit in the truck and deer hunt, and I've actually shot a deer or two out of the truck as far as the tailgate. Not in the truck. I've learned that lesson. So anyways, what I'm saying is, it's a spot for that you wouldn't think that there's a spot for that. And there's a lot of storage bins in this place that, I don't know how I'm going to use. I'm not going to utilize all of them, obviously, but there's a ton of storage.
So the spot you're referring to, hunting season, sometimes I'll put like ammo up there, or I'll put my binoculars. It's a really nice rest. Yeah. But most of the time, what I use that for is I put my camera there for backup cameras for trailers. I'll set like the little ledge right there.
Okay, sure.
Or our tire pressure monitoring for trailers. I like that. The rear storage in the floor, to me, is like the most incredible feature ever. And I've got my left side, driver's side rear set up for like, I've got ratchet straps, cam buckles, things like that, recovery. Then the right storage, I put like hitching stuff in there, recovery stuff. But I'll tell you right now, Tim, now had the Ram, I don't know how you're going to go back from the Ram, because you get so accustomed to this. Like, I had my last 2020 Ram. I had a 1500 or 2500 before that, but that's the old cab. It doesn't have as much storage. But I had the 2020 Ram 1500 Laramie, and ever since I left that truck, I've missed that storage. And now getting back into this RHO, I'm like, dude, I don't know if I could ever go back to another truck now, just because there's so much usable space in this thing.
Well, the thing that I want to be very clear about is that, yes, you have a flat floor. You can stack stuff up in there. You can put storage here, and you can just put stuff in the back. But it's nice to have, when you open those doors and somebody wants to hop in, and you don't have crap back there, and it's all put away in bins.
100%.
It's just nice. It's just like, I don't have to move stuff around. Like my neighbor, I hit drive his. He's got a 2005 Silverado 2500. I had to drive to the airport for him. 10 minutes away, his flight got delayed. You couldn't see the floor mats in the back of the seats. It was covered with stuff. He had stuff all. I mean, and he's a maintenance kind of outdoor guy. He works in his yard a lot. He's an old farmer. He's got crap all over the back of that truck, and you can't, like, I tried to hide his keys, and my wife goes, "Just put it underneath the floor mat." I said, I couldn't see the floor mat. I put underneath some gloves he had back there, because I knew that, whatever. It's usable stuff. And I had some haters, right? They're like, "Oh, can't wait for those bins to rust out.
They're plastic."
Well, I can't wait for those to break. I'm like, they're under the frame. Like, the frame protects it. Like, it's actually to me, it's like it's a really ingenious use of space. Like, and Dave's asking about Ram boxes. Same idea. Really ingenious use of space that you're not using anyways.
I think the Ram box, these are the kind of things where I feel like Stellantis they nail it. The Ram box, I think, is phenomenal. Like, if you're a hunter, if you're a camper, if you're a hiker, you keep that stuff out there. And then they did stuff like the Ram box now has like a plug out there. So if you wanted to charge stuff in the Ram box, or you want to put a cooler in there, there is one downside to the Ram box, though, I found. Yeah. If you are a HD truck guy and you do fifth wheel hitches, it makes life harder. Right. The other downside I found is we do a lot of dirt biking and Dura bikes. And if you put your dirt bikes in the back of a truck with a Ram box, the bed is a little narrower. You can't sneak the tire. But I'd still rather take the convenience of the Ram box. And I wish they would have offered it in the RHO. That would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it's because the fenders come out. They just
wider.
Yeah. I think because I've talked to them about it before, and I think it's a huge hit. I think there's just, there's so many things that Ram has done well since 2019. They've made some mistakes as far as leadership issues and changing the guard, and plants have been, Sterling Heights has gone through some issues producing trucks and things. But I think they've done, just overall, the design and engineering has been well. That's what I would say.
Yep.
I'm not sure the rest of the company has done as well as the design and engineering teams have done. I think they've done a great job on that. I think there's been some issues of build quality, and there's been issues of things that just they've had some problems with over the years. But I think that the leadership team is beyond the CEO's desk. That was kind of a big problem for a long period of time. And they keep changing CEOs, which I think is always a problem. I'd like to see, I like to see truck guys who work in trucks and become CEOs, and they're CEOs for 10, 15 years. I think that you got to have that time in the seat to really drive the brand forward. So I think they've had some missteps there, but I get vehicles all the time. I've owned a Ford, I've owned a Tundra, I've owned the Silverado, I've owned the Ram. The Ram is, you can't even argue, it's the best interior out of all of them. It's flat out. I don't think there's any argument. And I have people want to know about all 4 trucks. And yes, I'm teasing you with this. I have it in my mind. When I bought this truck, I was thinking about all 4 truck video combined, because I've owned them all. And I will have that video coming out soon as I decide to throw the GoPro in the corner and talk about it for 20 minutes. But it's such a beautiful interior, and it works so well. And it's just, and I walk by the truck and I just smile every time I see it. It's fantastic.
Yep. I was going to make a mention of a few comments. I saw Eric LaBelle mention a comment about a passive or a low battery warning. That's a great point. It seems like that'd be something easy to add into the Ram app, that especially, I don't know if you've noticed this, Tim, with our RHO, but have you noticed when you get close to your truck, your key fob, you'll start getting a red blinking light? Have you noticed that?
No, because it's been really cold.
Okay. So if you get in within proximity distance of your truck knows your key is getting close. You'll start seeing this little red light blink on there. And I'm like, well, this is going to wear out the battery a little quicker. Given the fact that I just had a battery die in a key fob recently that left me in a bad spot.
Right. You're now thinking about it. Yeah.
Hypersensitive to it. Like, how easy would it be for Ram to add battery life into the Ram app? There's all these other studies or health of the vehicle. I think that's a great idea. And then I also saw one other comment about base lighting, something. I don't know why I saw this, something about base LED lights.
If you want to scroll back for a minute, you actually, sorry, first time I'm using this, if you go over the comment, it'll show you a box that show.
Oh, it was someone who's going to talk about the mile per gallon. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning.
It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually getting pretty consistent around about 13, but like I mentioned, I'm getting, the other day I got, 18, 19 and a 90 mile.
19, yeah.
But I got a towing video coming here soon. We did a towing review on a new Yukon versus the RHO, and at similar speeds towing, they were almost identical. But I'm noticing my truck is, you should get a look.
That's the one with the key fob.
100%. That's a great idea to add into the Ram app. It seems like a no-brainer. It seems like it'd just be a software update. But mile per gallon, I swear, now that I'm at 4,000 miles, it seems like it's getting a little bit better. Not much, maybe a mile per gallon, but it's still not unreasonable. It's still right what I was getting with our standard 3.5 Raptor.
I think that's the thing, and I've tried to tell people this too. You can't compare this RHO to a 1500 Bighorn. It doesn't compute. It doesn't equal out, right? You have to compare apples to apples. And I think if I were driving the TRX, I'd have even less fuel economy, right? And I've driven a TRX. Actually, it was funny, for a long time, the media, as I'm a part of, we were all making jokes about it. We were trying to do a game of who could get the worst. Because it wasn't a game who got the best. It was who could get the worst. They have guys putting in numbers of 6, of 5, of 7. I mean, we were all trying to get the worst because it's so easy to get the worst in that thing. The thing would just drank the fuel. Yep. And so I think that is, in this, it's like I don't mind because I'm getting about the same. I'm getting about the same 0-60. I'm getting better fuel economy TRX. I'm getting a lighter and a smoother ride and a smoother power delivery with the engine. And I'm not missing the growl as much as I thought, because again, especially, if you're an early riser to work kind of guy, 6 a.m. it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, and add recalls to the Ford Pass app. That would be beneficial as well. Somebody said point that too. My wife has a Ranger and doesn't show the recalls in the app. She had a really hard time with that recently. Put in her video. So somebody who saw that video referring to that as well. I think that overall, I'm at this point of ownership. Let me be very clear. I did this in the video. I said, at 2,000 miles, I've had no problems with this for a set of trucks. And people are like, you idiot! That's only 2,000 miles. I'm like, good Lord, people don't listen. I think at this point of the ownership experience that I have 2,500 miles on this thing, I have never been happier with a vehicle at this point.
I would agree.
And I think that people talk about JD Power and they love or hate it, whatever this kind of stuff. And JD Power does this really great, like 90 days of ownership. And people are like, well, who cares about 90 days? I think those 90 days will put your mindset into place, whether you like or love this vehicle, the long term of it. And so if you hate it in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, you're going to hate this thing at 5 years or 10, you're not going to keep it 5 years. You're going to get rid of it. I think 90 days of ownership is a big deal. Now, I did not like the one blemish I have. I have a paint issue on the back B pillar. Okay. I have some, they call it splotches or something. Basically, the metal wasn't clean when they painted over top of it. There's some bubbles on it. And I talked to one of my friends who's a paint guy, and he's like, well, you got to take the cap, you have to take the bed off, you have to sand it all down, take all the PPF I put on there from Expel off, you have to do this, and he goes, or you just don't deal with it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go with or, because it doesn't really bug me that much.
Sure.
But that's the only quality issue I've had in the first, 45 days.
Yep. I mean, I had that small wire hiccup issue in the rear parking sensor, which was not a big deal, but I was hoping more than anything to highlight that if people were having any issues tied to certain systems tied into that wire harness, it might be helpful. But here I am, 4,100 miles, and I think it's an awesome truck. And I when I think about satisfaction of something, I typically try to look at how much do I pay for it? What am I getting out of it? And in full fairness, like I would say I'm much more satisfied with this than my Raptor R. Does it have the performance of the Raptor R? It does not. But I think if I looked at a value to price curve, I think this is a better value. And that's why I think the enjoyment is so high in this thing. And like you mentioned, this thing rides and drives so different than a TRX. It doesn't have that big wallowy feel. This thing truly feels like a sport truck, not an off-road long suspension travel truck. It's a much more fun. So if guys had never owned a long travel suspension truck, this would be a truck they'd like more than, I think, a Raptor. That's just my opinion.
Now, we got an issue here. We're making the guy who believes that no truck's been better since 1990s to 2015. Think about an RHO. Come on, car guy. You want to go test one out. He's got to think about, he loves the 1990 to 2010, 15 trucks. And I'm not going to argue that one at all. People have what they love and things, but you need to check this one out. You need to go for a test drive because it is phenomenal.
Yes.
And it's funny because it's like, give me all the RAM hate, give me all the quality hate, give me it all. I mean, and then, I love that people are like, well, resale value is terrible. Well, guess what, folks? I bought from Mark Dodge. I'm already 12 grand ahead. So,
when I look at resale, it's not about what it sells for. It's what you buy it for.
Okay.
Because that's buying and selling. That's his business. And so if you buy it right, you'll always be good on the back end. I don't know if he's watching this or not, but my buddy Jason, Samco Workshop channel, he says the worst resale vehicle he's ever owned was a Toyota Tacoma. And people's minds were like, well, how is this possible? The Tacoma is supposed to be the best resale vehicle ever. He goes, you don't get any discounts on them. You pay MSRP or above. And then when you go get rid of it, he said before, he said his best resale was his Ram 2500 Cummins. He's like, that was the best truck for resale. And so I personally think this RHO, when you look at the value of where the market is at today, with the discounts available today, this is one of the best value 1,500 trucks available right now. That's just, I really think it's a heck of a value.
Yeah, I mean, so it's starts at what, 70s. You can get 80 with all the packages and stuff, 80 whatever the 84,000 whatever deal is, and then you can find dealerships like we've been talking about online. Mark Dodge, Coons as well as another one I've heard people talk about. You can, now yes, it cost me $1,000 to fly down there to do all the stuff.
That's part of the fun experience.
Yeah, I got stuck in Houston for a night, and it was not so great. But anyways, but it's part of the journey. You know, it's
Yeah,
part of the fun driving it back and doing the thing. So yeah, no, I mean, and the car guy's right. As far as mile per gallon, I still miss the 3 liter Duramax. Holy crap! I
man.
got 30 miles per gallon driving through the Colorado mountains, and I wasn't even trying. It's just so it's so funny because I always laugh at myself because I'm gone from the most fuel efficient half ton in history to the least efficient half ton I've ever owned, right? And I've just gone this whole like weird thing, and as much as I love the Duramax as far as fuel economy, it's like holy cow! I
It,
just yeah.
it's because you knew Trump was going to be president and gas was going to be cheap. So you're just hedging your bets. That's why.
if I knew that stuff, I'd be in
Yeah.
Vegas making a bunch of money. But
Right.
I would have bet on the Eagles, man. I thought for hell they were going to win, but I thought
I
the Chiefs were going to
love the
destroy them.
3-liter diesel, man. That 3-liter Duramax is awesome. Awesome little engine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right, I think we've diced and sliced this truck up quite a bit. I know my whiskey's getting low, and I can tell you, I turned on my halogen or my LED lights, and I got sweat pouring down my sides. I don't know why these things are so bright. I gotta figure something out. I'm not really good about these lights, but I don't know. I think we've covered it pretty well. What else do you think we should talk about?
You know, I would just be curious. The topic starting at the beginning of the topic of the Hemi, and it is speculation and whatnot, but it is interesting times. And you know, I've thought all along, is there a chance Ram would bring out, we'll call it like a Scat Pack RHO, like you know, like when the Scat Pack came out, it was a value Challenger Charger that someone didn't want to spend the money to get into a Hellcat, and I wonder if they would do that. It would be an interesting option if they had a 392 or 6.4 RHO version. Personally, I still think I'd probably go with the Hurricane just because I've had friends with 6.4s that have not had the best experience. And this Hurricane, I think, is just the beginning of making power. I mean, look what JB4 is doing with these. These guys are already making 700, 800 horsepower at the crank. I think this motor is going to blow people. It feels like right now, it feels like Ram made an inline 6-cylinder Coyote variant, like the Ford Coyote. The thing is a ripper. You throw big power on it. It feels like that's what Ram just made with this motor. It's how well built it is.
So I take a little bit different track with this. I think that Ram's big weakness currently is, and no, really, it's the lights. Governor 93, it's the lights. It's not the whiskey. So I think that the big thing that I think they're missing on is I think it's twofold. I think they could bring the TRX back to a supercharged V8 in that and do a premium like your Raptor R, right? Raptor R is like 30 grand over. Well, they're banking on taking that part of 30 grand and paying a fine. You basically paid the fine. That's what they're thinking. I think the biggest thing that they screwed up, and something they're probably going to address, is they need a Ram Classic back. The Ram Classic was the old style of the interior with the older Hemi, with the older stuff, and it was a cheaper price point. I think that was, if you look at the numbers of losing 30,000 whatever each quarter deal, I think that was directly related to not having a classic version of it. I think Ram had something there that, as you know, in supplier world, the tooling was paid for, the dial work was all done, all the expenses were covered. You know, it wasn't anything new. They were just kept building it, and they kept. I mean, it's a profit machine for that brand, and it offered those customers who were saying, "Man, I can't afford a $70,000 truck, but I really want a mid 40 to 50 quad cab or crew cab with the cheap interior. It's all the truck I need." Well, that could be the truck they could offer. I think that's something that if they did bring the Hemi back in a version of this, or they could do like a Pentastar version of a Ram Classic with some of the older interior or something. I just think that there's definitely an affordability problem in the truck market.
100%. There's no question about that. So you're thinking like, because they got that Warlock, which is like a Rebel light, and I saw one first, and I'm like, okay, I'm starting to see the point of the Warlocks with lower cost, but it's still like a great truck. Throw a 5.7 in that, and because like I just did this video and I called it 60,000 is the new 40,000. And it's like, dude, $60,000 is like a base XLT or a base Bighorn Ram now. It's insane. So it's like when people look and say you're buying a $70,000 truck, it's like, well, dude, 60 grand gets you in a Pentastar with cloth interior. For 10 grand more, you could be in an RHO. Feels like a bargain.
Yeah, it does. I just think that there's a sweet spot there of a sub $50,000 truck that could have the V8 or something like this, and they could be the more inexpensive version of the truck, and it would allow customers to stair step a little bit better, right? So you could start a new truck at 40, and then you could maybe move up to 60. Maybe you do the you just stair step in the brand as your desire changes, as your needs change, something happens. But I remember talking a lot in the truck space. I've been in the truck space for years about how awesome the Classic was, and how GM has done this for a while. They have continued on the last generation of the vehicle. They call it somebody's gonna say in the comments. My brother actually bought one, and I was checking out.
It's a pickup truck.
It's a truck, yeah. So it's a Silverado, like it's like an LT or something.
Are you talking like the Pro?
No, that's the work truck. No, they make the Silverado every time they do a model year changeover. They tend to keep the last model for like another year or so.
Okay,
and it's basically the same. What they're doing is they're going through the extra supplies. They're running out all the supplies, bundling them all out. And I really think that this is something that they could have done in the ramp. And the reason why they didn't do it is because they had so many changes to the truck, right? The Hurricane was a big change. Ford did this for years. Actually, a funny story is the Lincoln Blackwood was actually built in Mexico for decades after that died in the United States, because the Mexican market, Latino market, wanted that higher dollar truck. And so it actually lived on down there. But when Ford changed over in 2015 to a whole new body style with new aluminum panels, they finally killed the Lincoln Blackwood in Mexico.
Okay.
And so I think there's definitely a market that says, again, going back to the point where how diverse the truck market is, there are guys like the Car Guy line who doesn't want to spend money, and that's totally fair. And I'm not going to argue that at all. That could go and get that inexpensive truck and be satisfied with it, but have some of the newer safety features and things that, I'm sorry, I'm getting older. I don't see as well as I used to. I don't react as much as I used to, as much as I'm going to be 50 pretty soon. But I want the technology. I want to be safe for my family. And so you can still have those things, but not step up to 60, 70, 80,000 range to get that. And I just 100%. Think that there's a way to do that in a way that makes sense. Blackwood is straight up cartel vehicle.
I know. That made me laugh. It's hilarious. Hey, those dudes have stepped up, man. I've seen these guys are rolling like Super Duties, armored, and Raptors and TRXs. Yeah.
So Chevrolet's done this. I forget the term on it, but they're somebody in the comments can tell me what the term is. I'm blanking on it right now, but they've done this where they've done a year changeover. So I think that, and Tim Kadiskas talked about this as well in an interview. He said, he goes, trucks used to be cheap. Now they're not. And he goes, I really want my Classic back, because they sold a lot of Classics. And again, everything was paid for. All the tooling was paid for. They had a separate little line in the factory, or not line, but they put it in the factory because they still had the tooling to build it. And it just made a lot of sense. And I think moving forward into 2025, 2026, they could, hold on to that idea and bring it back, say in a mid-year refresh in like 27, 28, but then still offer the 24 with the features and things, 25 with the features they think, and still do a Classic version of it.
So I got a question for you. You see, you look at this market, 25 is going to be a really interesting year, I think, for the truck market, because there's really not a lot new other than like the Ram refresh. Ford didn't really do anything. GM really didn't do anything. Toyota's not. There's nothing really going on in the HD truck segment. Okay, you could say the Ram, but the HD is like, it's not really a big generational change. It's more of an evolutionary change. I think the market's going to get more competitive this year, and we've already seen it kind of heated up with discounts and whatnot. I'm curious your thoughts. How does Ford answer back on this? Because they seem to really be very much Ford and Ram kind of going back and forth. It's going to, in my opinion, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what Ford does to answer back to kind of Ram's move with the RHO, the Hurricane. Ford has to feel the pressure, in my opinion, that Ram has been crushing it in the interior for a while now and kind of taking market share from these guys. So I'm just curious, like your thoughts, like what do you think happens in 25? Do we just see pricing war? Is that kind of what happens this year?
No, I think you and I had a conversation earlier today that I think that plants would just slow production down. I think automakers are just decided to not going to put incentives out as much as they used to. Just, you take the week off, guys. They just kind of close production a little bit.
Yep.
Emissions, EPA rulings affect things. No, the thing that people don't know with EPA rulings, every time EPA rules on something, it goes to court. The EPA could say that the sky is blue and they go to court. And so that stuff, Yeah, that stuff's going to take years to go through court, and so I don't think that's going to have any impact in this year. And plus, automakers are looking at they're designing stuff for 2028 model year and 2029 model year, so I'm not worried about that. Ford has been. I'll give you this. I'll give you this good breakdown. So I got in the industry in what was it 2011? I think in 2012 in that range, somewhere in that range. I've been a truck guy, but I'd never written about it and stuff like that. I've always described Ford as being the most aggressive truck manufacturer out there. They will respond to everything. They want to be king of the hill. Yep. And the F series, to be very clear, F series is the best selling truck lineup in the country. It's not the F-150. People always say, well, the F-150 is best selling truck. No, it's F series. And they consider the F-150, 250, 350, and 450 part of that, the demographic, which is kind of cheating a little bit in my view, because they sell an F-450 without the bumper, which means it qualifies at GVWR into that
14,000.
Yep. Yes. And it's kind of like, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
They've always been the most aggressive to make changes. So if you look at especially the forums are funny because, they try to do stuff in generations as far as forum separating stuff. Ford's tough, man. They make changes all the time. They make changes on the fly. They will update stuff and just keep changing stuff. I think that they're going to respond quickly to anything going on. I think the Tremor lineup for them is a really good place. The STX, actually, somebody was telling me today in the comments, I looked it up, they found a crew cab 5-liter STX F-150 for under 40. And yeah, I need to double check that one. STX is STX used to be their off-road. It used to be a trim level. No, excuse me. It used to be a package.
Yeah, it's an XL. It's an XL. Appearance
XL,
package.
Yeah, it's XL STX, but in 2024 they made STX as its standalone trim.
Okay.
Because they wanted an inexpensive. I'm going to say inexpensive air quotes. Car guy online. Hold on, inexpensive air quotes. Entry level kind of off-road trim. So I think you'll find Ford's going to be pretty aggressive in the pricing with some of their lower end stuff. I think they can hold to it with the King Ranch as a Platinums. People just love that stuff. They're going to keep at it. Ram has been like the aggressive underdog.
Yeah.
Ram comes in. They're just like, they're trying to be aggressive they can. They've always been number 3. They're doing the best they can to fight it out. I think they would be a lot more competitive if last year they launched trucks on time. Our RHOs should have been in our hands in October.
100%. My build date was September 9th.
Yeah. I mean, we're 4 or 5 months behind.
That truck still has not landed at the dealership. Yeah. Still 5 months later.
Yeah. So I think that I think Ram has had production issues and they're going to get that solved this year. Yep. I think you can see a lot more on the dealerships. I think you're going to see Ram sales rebound because there's nothing. The thing is, people always like pointing at Ram and like, oh, Ram can't sell trucks, whatever. Fine, but there's nothing wrong with the Ram lineup. It's all been updated. It's a great lineup, and once you get into a Hurricane, you miss the V8 sound, like we talked about many times in this live stream and podcast combo already. But there's nothing wrong with the lineup. The lineup is really good, and it's funny, the heavy duty side, people are like, well, the cab is old and everything's old and stuff. Guys, they sell the crap out of those.
Yeah,
like there's no. I mean, the cab is good. The size is great. Why change what works? I think that they're coming around. I think Toyota actually with the Tundra, the sales are going up because the 2 key reasons. Number one, they stood behind the engine recall, and they're taking care of that issue. And the second reason is they launched truck during post-pandemic, so supply chain was a huge issue. Which you've known the supply chain side, and they took forever to get supply chain going again. So they are actually going to be well stocked this year. I think Tundra is too expensive. I think it needs some changes, but I do see, in my great the crystal ball, if I were to look at the math and say 7 years is a full model lineup and 5.5 changes, looking about things, I think the Tundra gets refreshed this year. I think it has a new front end. I think it's going to fix the problems of the 2022 launch. I think it's going to make a lot of customers happier with what they're going to make changes to it. I hope that pricing comes down because the TRD Pro for what you get for the $1, I think is too expensive still.
Absolutely.
And so I think I think Toyota is going to be more aggressive in the full size truck space by responding a little bit quicker. And I think reliability still wins in Toyota. That's what they got to hold to. And so there's some flaws with the Tundra. And I think if they fix some of those flaws, they'll be a more competitive truck. And now, for the first time ever in their history, they actually have a plant that builds almost exclusively Tundras. For years, it was Tundra and Tacoma, which they always play the game of, hey, we'll build more Tacomas next week or build more Tundras this week. So they always kept supply kind of tight. I think now they're going to be past that. I think the biggest surprise we're going to see this year is I think GM is primed to redo their trucks. So we had 2019 was the launch. We had 2023 was a refresh. So 2026 model year is 7 years past when the 2019 model year came out. I think that GM is doing something really smart, and they've done it from the Acadia to the Traverse to the Terrain to the Tahoe and Yukon. They've made one fundamental change. They've improved the damn seats.
Yeah.
The seats were like rock hard concrete. My 23 Silverado hurt me to drive it. And I think that is the key culprit to that truck is the seats. I think they're going to improve the seats, which they've done. Again, Acadia's got better seats. Terrain's got better seats. These are all new vehicles that have been launched last year or two. So I think the seats get improved quite a bit. I think that the ZR2 is really a badass truck.
Absolutely. It's sweet.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that it competes that well with the Raptor as much as they wanted it to.
No.
So I feel like they're going to take the ZR2 maybe to another level to get that competition going a little bit better. Because I think as much as Ford wants to compete with Ram, because Ram is the up and coming, GM and Ford are really still competing pretty well. And it's funny, the press releases. Ford's like, we're the best selling truck lineup. And GM's like, we outsold your asses 2-1. I mean, because the problem with GM is they report the brands separately. And they've always, I thought that's a dumb thing. And Mark Royce has talked on camera about it many times. Well, you combine our sales. And I've said, you know what? When you combine your sales, I'll report on your sales combined then. Until then, I got to go with facts. I'm a journalist. I don't do well with speculation. I don't do well with this. I think that I think GM's going to make some changes because that 3-liter Duramax is a great engine. The 5.3 has had some lifter issues, now some bearing issues. 6.2 has got some issues with, there's a ongoing, the feds basically got involved with some engines that failed. The 2.7, the Turbomax has been pretty damn good, actually.
Dude, that motor's awesome.
It's been pretty good. I think GM's poised to get back in the marketplace a little bit better with some better seats. I think they're going to improve some of the styling. I think the ZR2 styling is really good. The Sierra Duramax, Sierra Denali Ultimate's really good. As far as the Vader Chrome, my God, it looks beautiful. But I don't know if the Trail Boss has done as much as they wanted to do. I don't know if the regular LTZ has done as much as they want to do. I'm a huge fan. Car guys gonna love this. Huge fan of the old 1990 2000s front end of the Silverados,
especially the HD.
Yeah,
oh my gosh, that looks so sweet.
It looks so good, and I think they've kind of gone too far. I remember when the Trail Boss came out, and it was like the chin was gone, like it was all blacked up like here and just dropped, and so you had these weird. And I remember sitting the interior designer, I'm like, what do you think of these comments about this this front end and how it looks? The chin stuff kind of dropped off, and he looks at me and goes, I think it looks great. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm not, I'm like, not trying to poke the bear here. It's kind of weird. It's just something different. So I did a video to expect this year. And I think and again, I'm not a good bettor, but if I were to do the math, and typically, I guess historically, besides Ford, all automakers work on like a 7-year lifespan and a product cycle, and they usually do a refresh somewhere in a half period at that time. The Silverado and Sierra have already done their mid-cycle refresh. And I think we could see something coming out in 26. And the reason why I say that too is the Yukon and Tahoe have been redesigned.
Right.
The Traverse is done.
Mid-cycle.
The Acadia is done. The Terrain's done. I mean, at some point, you have this engineering team that has to be doing something. The Silverado EV is done. The Sierra EV is done. You know, I don't know what else is in their wheelhouse right now to change, because everything else has been recently redone. Yeah,
my guess is we're going to see a 26 refresh in the exterior interior Silverado Sierra, and then 27 model year new powertrains. I think we'll see 5.3, 6.2 be replaced by something.
Yeah, I think I like the Hemi conversation. I think the 5.3 and 6.2 have had their day.
Long in the tooth.
Yeah, they're long in the tooth. And what's the 5.3 does like 380 horsepower, something like that.
Yeah, 300 or 360 maybe.
Yeah. And today's market,
it's a little light.
It's a little light, and that's the problem with the V8s is that they don't get as much out of them as they do the small displacement turbos.
Yep.
And I know people hate turbo. I get it. I'm not going to argue that at all. I'm tired of arguing that turbos are an unreliable game. But I think that the truck market, especially the customers I talk to, they're looking at that. They want to move. They want the truck to get out of its own way. And so I think that is something that I'm looking forward to. So I bought the Ranger last year, technically in December, and I bought the RHO this year, technically in January. So I'm good for 2 tax years, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't have to do anything this year unless somebody does something.
Yep.
And that's the cool part where I'm at right now is I can drive this RHO for 2 years if I want to. I can train the Ranger off. If I can train I can do different things. But I'm going to sit back and see what comes out new. And I'll probably put an order on that one, whatever it is. And I'll trade the RHO in on whatever the newest thing is, because that's my business model. And it's just what makes sense for my business. But I feel like I'm either going to buy a Tundra this next year or I'm going to buy a Silverado next year. I feel like that's where the market's kind of at. I had a pretty disappointing experience with my 22 Tundra. I had a good experience in 2013 Tundra. So I probably would lean more to doing the Tundra over the Silverado, because I had a pretty good experience with Silverado. And if they just improve the seats, I'm probably not. I'm really good about making videos about nothing sometimes, but how many videos can I do about seats? Really? I get kind of bored about that. So I feel like that's where I feel like the Tundra is going to be the biggest thing. And the thing is, like, the Tundra sales are 130,000 a year, maybe. Well, they're 180,000 last year. The thing is, from a half-ton segment, the Tundra does pretty well from a straight half-ton segment for having one plant and having the footprint they have, versus the big three that have the chicken tax working for them and have the built-in, guys who grew up in the 80s with the Heartbeat of America slogans and the Ford fighting, all the advertising they have. I think they've done pretty well to carve themselves out of place in the marketplace.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's funny because, like, every time I get into a Tundra, there's unique nuances. It's the same thing as the Ram Heavy Duty. The size of the Ram Heavy Duty, yes, is it a smaller cab than the Ford and a GM? But I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that appreciate that smaller cab. They're getting into tight spots, they're maneuvering, and they like that. I see the exact same thing of the Toyota Tundra, because the Toyota Tundra, to me, I don't actually know the specs, but just every time I get in it, it feels a lot smaller than an F-150, a Ram, and a Silverado. And there's probably people that appreciate that little nuanced size. Maybe they live in the city or tighter corridors or whatnot. But every time I drive that truck, honestly, it impresses me. The trans shift's good. The interior feels more, I'll call it Americanized. Because when I used to get in old Toyotas, just the buttons and everything was like weird spots. And it just is different. But the new Toyota, actually, the new Tundra is not bad. And I like the center stack display. I think that's pretty good. I think for me, the most, I'm not going to call it odd, just different. The most different thing I noticed about getting into a 22 or 22 Toyota Tundra that caught me off guard. As soon as I hit the start button, they pumped the sound into the sound of the interior. And to me, it sounded nothing like any truck I've ever had. It sounded like an International Harvester combine.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, all I could think of is these marketing guys in Japan, like, oh, Americans, they like combines. And I'm like, they're going to make this thing sound like a John Deere. And every time I get into this, that Toyota, I'm like, it doesn't sound like an idling truck. It sounds like there's a tractor next to me. And it just doesn't feel right to me.
Right.
But, I like the truck, though, honestly. There are some weird little things, though. Like if you off-road a Toyota, for instance, like TRD Pro, it's got a really nice shock package on it. But there was one thing that caught me off guard. I was looking at the bottom shocks of a TRD Pro Tundra. They put the shock reservoir at the base of the shock that connects to the axle, facing forward, where rock debris. First time you go in rocks, you're going to break your shock reservoir off. And they might have changed that in the last year or two, but it's little things like that. Like I take my truck off road, we take it to the dunes, we're going to jump them. And I just think of like two-tracking hunting. That's something that I could see breaking off road. Just like you probably saw what generation GM truck was it where they had the DEF tank hanging on the side of the frame, lower than the frame. And I personally know of like 3 guys that were hunting. One was in Idaho. And he went in a rut and ripped his DEF tank off the side of the truck. He's getting towed out. And it's things like that. It's like you're building a truck for truck stuff. You kind of miss that stuff,
Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story that you'll appreciate. So, I mean, and also for the Toyota conversation, you're in Michigan. And every time I go to Michigan, Toyota does not exist in Michigan. It's funny. It's just because everybody's on a discount. If you buy a truck for MSRP in Michigan, you don't know anybody, man. Just go to the bar and meet some Joe Blow. You get a discount number. It's funny. Everybody has an employee plan. But when the Colorado ZR2 came out, I was a huge fan of mid-size off-road trucks for the primary reason that they fit through trails a lot easier. And they fit through tight spots. Like up north of Michigan, right? I mean, you get these trails a little bit tight. Side-by-sides are fine. But half ton, sometimes you got to watch the trees and things. A mid-size works great for that kind of deal, right? And so the ZR2 was coming out, and I was really excited. I was pushing actually PR. We were pushing them quite a bit to build it. I was really thinking it was really going to be really cool. And they developed this truck, and it comes to the marketplace, and we noticed that GM's got this really innovative, cool bumper step, right? It's built in a bumper. It's the best thing. It's great. I have another story about that I can tell you. But anyways, in the ZR2, that step is gone. It's a solid piece of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I asked the team, I said, so why'd you get rid of the step on this? They said, well, here's what happened. There's one guy there. He's a really nice guy. Wears a cowboy hat every time I see him. He gets these events. He's an engineer. He was the only guy left from the Hummer days. So when GM sold Hummer to I think the Chinese own the brand, something like this now, they lost all of the off-roading engineers. They lost them all because they weren't building the Silverado ZR2 didn't exist. The Z71 was I said to one of the guys with stickers package, and boy, he about lost the shit on me. So I don't say that anymore. He was really mad about it. He was really fighting mad. But I mean, it was a skid plate. It wasn't really an off-road truck. It had more off-road capability, yes, but it was an off-road truck. So what they did for the Colorado, because remember the Colorado ZR2 came out before the Silverado ZR2. It's kind of the Silverado HD came out. They sent the engineering team to Moab and out to California to do Rubicon Trail. They rented Jeeps and things and they had off-road people there teach the engineering team how to off-road. Oh, I got to ban somebody. Hold on. Can you? I can't ban them.
How do I do that?
Yeah, just ban that. Yeah. So they took the team out there and they off-roaded with the truck, and come to find out, they busted the bumper on the Colorado a dozen times because of the overhang there.
Okay.
So they learned as they developed that truck about off-roading.
That's cool.
Because they lost that piece of their business. People tend to think that GM is this massive corporation and they have thousands and thousands of engineers. And you've been around OEMs enough to know that majority of an OEM is manufacturing. You know, the majority of the team is out building the trucks. The engineering team isn't as big as you think they are, right? You just expect it to be really big. And what happens is the engineering team goes from one model, next model. They change. So they learn from that. They've gotten better about that. So that's what gets me excited about the ZR2 and maybe even ZR2 next level coming maybe in 26 or 27, is I think that team has learned a lot about off-roading and the off-roading space that they didn't. I'm not going to say that they're idiots about, right? But when you overland and you do sand dunes and you do stuff for hours and hours and days, you do develop a certain mindset. And they have done this. So the GMC Sierra, for example, has a slot, I believe, if I'm talking the right truck, has a slot in the bed to fit a dirt bike tire. And the reason they did that was because they hired a new engineer. A new engineer knew about that. He was doing dirt bikes a lot. They incorporated that thought into the truck. So engineers can play a key role in not design, not interior layout stuff, but about small things that they use on a daily basis as their truck. And so when you have that brain drain, when you see in the news that XYZ company left a bunch of engineers and stuff, that's a real impact on future products.
Super cool.
And so Ram has a team that has bled trucks for years. Like Brant is hilarious. He looks like a dude that lives in a ranch in Montana. He's got the beard. He's got tall with the man. You know, I mean, this guy is like he could be in their Yellowstone TV show. He's just that kind of dude. And that guy, he's a truck. He drives a truck every day. He loves trucks. He really believes in the brand. What I see a lot in my life and my job, my life sometimes, is I see a lot of engineers who get into the role as a stepping stone. who don't really believe in the product, who don't really get it. And I've seen GM has had this problem for a while. They've gone through quite a few engineers, and I don't like that. I want to talk to the same chief engineer unless he retires, which I totally get. When I go to Ram, I talk to the same engineers. When I go to GM, I meet different engineers. When you go to Ford and talk to the engineering team, it's like the freaking New York Yankees. They're sitting there in the office going, well, I was chief engineer last time. Well, maybe you're chief engineer this time. And, I mean, the wealth of knowledge that Ford has is incredible. And I am a firm believer in that wealth of knowledge engineering team really makes the engineering go. I mean, look at, and not talk cars too much, but the Corvette just laid off the chief engineer and the chief designer and the chief guy. I mean, they destroyed the team. Yep. And so it makes you worried about the next. Corvette guys are really concerned right now, and they really should be. You lose that brain drain. And so I think Ram is posed to do a lot of stuff. Toyota they have basically a ladder system. I mean, you work on Tacoma, then you work on Tundra, then you go back work on 4Runner. Then those guys bleed trucks, and they go to Orlando Expos. They really understand the truck market. So I think GM is getting close to that. I've seen some engineering changes. I've seen people moving in. I think they're getting close to that, back to that bench. But Ford has the deepest bench I've ever seen. You go there and you can ask that guy what bolt size is on the underside of the whatever XYZ part, and he's like, "Oh yeah, it's an 8mm, and you twist it's 40 Newton meters for the torque," and it's like, what the, it's crazy to me. So that's people anticipate, well, Chevy's full of engineers, they all off-road all the time. Well, in Michigan, some people this is a job, right? I know so many engineers that I've met over the years that some of them don't even like cars. It's just a job.
I mean, my background is engineering, and I was in automotive. I got in it because I wanted to work in cars. You grow up, Legos and RC cars and working with dad and changing points in a car or whatever. And I remember my first job out of college, I was working for an exhaust manufacturer. And I'm thinking, man, these guys are probably all into like hot rodding and this and that. Dude, these guys have been working on some of them, not all of them. Some of them have been working on exhaust systems for 15 years, and they didn't know the first thing of looking at actual exhaust system in real life of why would you put a hanger rod here, or why would you do this muffler like this, and it was like the practicality. It just wasn't. I think those enthusiast engineers, they're few and far between. You still see like a pretty tight with the powertrain guys at Ford, GM, Chrysler, and there's still a lot of them there.
Yeah, the powertrain guys
guys are still very much like they're the enthusiast for sure. Especially GM. GM's got a really strong. Their small block group is super strong, but you are seeing things though, like right now with GM, the layoffs, like this chief guy that was just let go in the Corvette group, especially as the fact that they're launching these records with the ZR1 and the Corvette. It's really sad to see, especially how well the C8 is done. But yeah, pretty crazy.
No, I mean, that's and so my dad worked in mock-up for years, by the way, too, and he's like, we had that step in for the BEV to GM back in like 2014 and 2013, and he's like, every year they killed it, and then they came out in the Avalanche, people loved it, and he goes, aha. And then it was like Avalanche died, and they're like, bring it. And so they brought it back, and everybody loves it. And GM's going, well, yeah, we knew you guys would love it, so that's why they had that thing in mock-up like 10 years before they brought it out. Hilarious. And it's hilarious because it's such a, and even Ford copied it, which is saying a lot because Ford does not copy anything. You ask those guys about the difference between their step-in versus GM step-in, they will tell you it's bolted to the frame and not the bumper, but they get really squirmy when you ask them why they copied GM. They won't know. That's not a conversation they talk about because Ford is very proud, and they should be. They've had a really great truck for years. I'm not denying them at all, but they're a very competitive group. And like I said, it's the Yankees playing against the Red Sox is what I see with the Ram. I mean, and all of a sudden the Orioles come in. Okay, whatever, but pick your team. But I mean, it's like that's how I see the truck market. It's sometimes a problem for me because I have so much experience behind the scenes that it's hard for me to explain why I feel different things about different trucks. And then that's why I try to talk about engineers and how they really see things. And there's a lot of conversation online, especially people love to hate engineers. And I get that. I mean, it's easy targets, right? You're changing an oil filter and it's pain in the ass to get to. And who do you blame? You blame the engineer. I totally get it. There's reasons why they had to do things certain ways. And there's sometimes some engineers just make bad decisions. It's just what happens.
And to be fair, people realize an engineer majority of the time is a cog in the wheel of the full system. And you've got marketing saying, hey, we want to design this system like this. And the engineer's like, yeah, but this bolt, you're never going to be able to get out. And they're like, I don't really care. Let the dealership worry about it.
Right. Yes.
And then who gets blamed?
The engineer.
The engineer.
Yeah.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, from what I've seen from my experience in the automotive industry, majority of the engineers don't want to make those decisions. Their hands are tied, and they're tied either by financial or marketing. That's typically the two decisions.
Well, like the 3-liter Duramax diesel has a wet belt in the back, and you got to drop transmission to check the belt. That was a marketing decision.
Yep.
And the engineer hates it. I mean, that guy hates it. I'm sure he went home angry many nights because, I guess that's, people accuse me of defending engineers a lot, and I do to some degree because I've never been an engineer who wanted to build a vehicle that failed.
Absolutely. This is the thing people don't realize. As an engineer, I went to college to be a mechanical engineer to make things good and better. Mm-hmm. You get in the automotive industry and you know what they say? Make 101% of the design. Not 100. My mind is, I want to make it 150%. I want a safety factor that this thing's never going to fail. And then marketing comes over and says, yeah, but it'd be too expensive. We can't sell it. Make it just good enough. If it'll fail at 100,000 miles, make it good for 110,000 miles. And the engineers are like, well, this is crap. We don't want to design this. So engineers get blamed for a lot of that. And it's not really their fault, sadly.
Right. And then marketing, you can't really blame marketing because you get a truck like that's 10 grand over the competition. I mean, it's
got to meet cost.
Yeah. It's as much as people love to point fingers and hate things, it's just a business, and there are pros and cons, and some trucks are better than others, and some things are frustrating. And
this is what I think has been really, really fun watching the truck and vehicle market the last 10, 15 years. Everyone ragged on Ford for coming out with EcoBoost engines and aluminum this and electric that, and everyone's like, oh, these guys suck. They're the last player with a muscle car with a V8. Why? Because they made V6 trucks 15 years ago to build up their overall CAFE standards, where their vehicles are efficient enough that they can go make a gas guzzling engine that everybody wants and offset the losses with an EV that some people don't want.
Right.
That's what's fun, seeing those cultural differences where Ram's basically like, dude, we're all in. Hemi for life, Hellcat for life.
Yeah, they screwed
no
up.
Backups, no hybrids, terrible CAFE credits. And you know what they say? Well, dude, our vehicles are not efficient, so we'll have to tack a $15,000 carbon credit on this, where Ford only has to pay $2,000. And then people say, why are Ram trucks so expensive? Right here. This is why.
Bad leadership. Leadership. I mean, I tell people why they're always like, why is Ram doesn't build the V8 anymore? They don't sell a car. You know, I mean, in either car or compact SUV that gets 30, 40 miles per gallon, they just don't.
Yep.
And there's a reason why other brands are able to do that.
Yep.
It's just business. It's nothing. Yep. Trust me, every truck guy I know who's an engineer would love to take all the marketing crap out of the truck, build it to 10 times the standards they have. They'd like to lift it, put big ass V8s in it with big 37-inch tires, and just haul ass all day. That's every engineer I've talked to who's really a truck guy. That's what they want, but they know they can't get there, so they play the compromise game till they can get there.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right, like I said, I'm sweating like a pig. So make sure you check out both of our channels. They're linked in the comments and things, whatever you guys will find us. People are smart. Cookies Online, SMRT, Cookies Online to find this stuff. So it's going to be fantastic. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being on the live
Thanks
stream.
for inviting me. No, this is fun. This is great. And it's cool knowing we both have RHOs, so we can beat on them. I'm hoping you're going to bring yours up to Michigan and we'll go to the dunes and push them.
My brother's after me to bring my Dodge to Michigan.
Your Dodge. That's right.
Yes, he's very animate about me bringing my Dodge to Michigan. And I'm like, so apparently I had to make we'll see what happens this summer, but I love driving the damn thing. And in the gas stations, it's funny. I just don't care. I just have so much fun driving it.
Don't look anymore.
I don't even look. I just, whatever it's going to be.
I just go to my buddy and find the cheapest place and go there.
Yeah. I've been invited to the Baja, Mexico. I've been invited to Washington State. I've been in the dunes, Michigan. I'd like to go there again. I've been invited to do some stuff, and the kid's a little bit older. Things a little bit easier around the house to get out than I used to be. So I am thinking about that kind of stuff, and I'm looking at as a business, as myself, look at the ROI and how's it pencil out. But I have been thinking about the kind of different things.
Let's do it.
Cool. All right, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun. If you guys want, feel free to check out my channel.
Yeah, and for both of us, we will see you down the road.
See you later.